Hi, I'm Steven Sashin from InvisibleShoe.com, and in this series of videos you're going to learn how to make huaraches, the barefoot running sandal of the Tarahumara Indians. This first video is going to be about how to make a tracing of your foot that you're going to use to put on the sole material. Then we'll actually make the sole material, and then we'll lace them up and get them on your feet and get you running. The first step in making your huaraches, your running sandals, whether you're making them on your own or using our Invisible Shoe kit or sending in for a pair of custom huaraches, is making a tracing of your foot, a pattern of your foot. Now technically you don't need to do this. You could draw right onto the sole material that you're using. I've just found that it's a lot easier to work with a pattern, and that way you also don't get ink all over the sole material, which could either transfer to your foot or just be a mess when you get there. And all you need obviously is a Sharpie pen and a piece of paper. And you need a piece of paper big enough for your foot. So 8.5 by 11 will fit most people. If you have a larger foot, some legal paper, 8.5 by 14, or even newspaper if you have a really large foot, whatever you need. So the first step is place your foot on the paper. When you do this, make sure you have more than enough room in the front and the back, because you're not going to be drawing right up to the edge of your toes. You'll be drawing slightly around them. And then take the pen, and you're going to just hold it vertically and just draw around your foot. Now you're not trying to get an exact match for where your foot hits the ground. You're actually drawing around your foot, slightly bigger than your foot, because it's just way easier to remove material than it is to add material. In a related note, I'm getting to a point right here where you can see I've got like this bump here on my foot. A lot of people have that. You don't need to draw inside of that. It's okay to just draw around it, and then we can adjust that later if you want to. While you have your foot here, you want to make two other marks. The first is the mark for where you're going to be cutting the hole for the string, and you want to put that in between your toes, but I recommend angling it so that it goes slightly more towards your second toe. The reason is that when you walk and run in huaraches, there's a tendency for your foot to kind of push itself this way, and if you have the string closer to your second toe, it'll hold your foot in place better than if you have it right in the middle. So I'm just going to angle that towards my second toe. And then we need to make the marks for where we're going to have the holes for the lacing by your ankles. The easiest one is the one on the inside. Just lean forward a little bit, and here's the ankle bone. You want to be just slightly in front of the ankle bone, just barely, just vertical mark straight down. We'll move that onto the sole. And then on the outside, this one's kind of a fun one. What you want to do is, if you look carefully, you'll see there's a spot that has the least amount of contact with the ground, and that's where you want to make that spot. It's typically going to be in front of the ankle bone by about 1/2 inch or so. You can see where I was practicing this. So mine's right about here. It doesn't have to be exact, but you'll see. That's going to come in handy later. So you'll also notice I'm using more than one piece of paper. That way I don't end up drawing through the paper onto the ground. So just move those marks like this, just to indicate where they go. And there's the toe hole again. If you're going to be sending this in to get a custom pair of huaraches made, what you want to do is make a mark that's just a 4-inch long line with a mark every 4 inches. Or you can do this, every inch. Or you can also do this in centimeters, a 10-centimeter line with a mark every centimeter, and then also just print your name. That way I know who this belongs to. Okay, now the next step is that we're not going to try and use this exactly as it is. We're going to even it out. We're not trying to get an exact representation of the foot. What we want to do is make a nice clean pair of sandals. So you can see the toe area, it's got all those little bumps. You want to make a nice curve and even that curve out. Simple. In fact, you'll see I kind of drew past the toe down to where that pinky toe bone goes. And on the inside, here's my big toe bone. I actually open up that curve, add a little more material there, because again I found that when you're running in huaraches you tend to lean a little or move a little towards the inside, and again it's easier to remove material later if you find you don't need it than it is to add it. Now here's that spot where I had that bump in my foot. I know just from making these in the past that I can just flatten that out entirely, and similarly there's a little curve around here. I'm going to leave that as it is. So this is step one. The next part is just cutting out this pattern, and my recommendation is when you cut on the outside of the line. You don't need to try to cut on the line exactly. Again, there's no problem with having too much material, so just cut around the pattern and then we're ready for the next step. So here's the tracing that I've made, and after you do this, what I like to do is flip it over and check your other foot and see if your other foot fits on there. Some people think their feet are different size, some people actually do have different sized feet. So just check if your foot fits nicely on there and if the holes look like they line up correctly, then all you need to do is use this one tracing for both feet. But if your feet are very different or the holes line up very differently, you can make a second tracing for your other foot. And once you've done that, we're ready to go on and apply this tracing onto the sole material to make your huaraches.